Hey, welcome back to the Kingsway Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We have a special guest today. Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Bethany Douglas. I am here with the Pregnancy Care Center. I'm the president of the board, and I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. I know in the years past, we've done some different videos recognizing the Crisis Pregnancy Center. It's currently in Aurora. Awesome. Now, why we're doing this, maybe you're like, what are we doing? Why would we do this? We are in the middle of our Blessed to Bless campaign in 2023. We're actually, I should say, right on the back end. We've almost completely finished it. Saving the best for last. Yes. And we wanted to do this earlier, but golly, the holidays are crazy. And it really, it made it difficult for us to get our lives together. And that's because both of us have things that are going on.
Just a few things.
Just a few things.
Yes.
So we are doing it kind of as if you participated this year or in years past and you want to know a little bit more of exactly what the Crisis Pregnancy Center does, we want to make sure that information is up to date. Plus, there's a lot of new things that are going on. And there's more than one way to help. And I know some of you have donated some amazing things, and the pile out there is awesome. And I've already said every Sunday that this is my favorite time of the year because I get to watch people's faith actually walked out. Like it's no like maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. No, it happened, and I'm really, really proud. So it's exciting for that reason. But I think that's not the only way, or maybe even sometimes one of the most impactful ways that potentially could be. So we're going to break down all of that stuff. But before we get to that, you've stepped into this role, but tell me a little bit about you. Like, are you married? You got any kiddos? Like,
oh gosh. Okay, a little bit about me. Married. Been married for 20 something years.
It's a test.
Somewhere in the mid 20s.
20 something.
Yes.
Not a teenager.
No, it's been a hot minute. Enough that I don't remember exactly how long. So yeah, I've got a wonderful husband. His name is Gabe.
Okay.
He is from this area. I am not. I'm from Lawrence, Kansas originally. He drugged me down here 20 plus years ago.
How dare you?
And I just never left. So
I lived in Wichita for a little while.
Oh, perfect. I've got family from there. So, so we've been in Mount Vernon from like 01, 02. So I feel like this is home for us.
Yeah.
We have 6 kids.
Wow.
I've got an adopted oldest daughter who's married, and she is going to make us grandparents in April.
Oh my gosh. Boy or girl?
A little boy.
Okay.
So that's kind of exciting. And then we have a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 8-year-old. We've got a baby in heaven who would be 2 here pretty soon. And then we had a surprise little one who's now 15 months.
Oh my goodness. An extra
just to
gift.
make it real interesting for me right now.
So I've been married for 16 years. I have a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, and about to be 8 tomorrow.
Oh, nice. So we're very similar.
Very similar stage of life. Not a teenager still. We haven't gotten to
teenager
that, but
at heart.
Yes.
Like already there. 100%. Yeah.
So we had met one other time, and I reminded you this. We had worked in Holiday Central together, and your organizational skills were on full display that day. And I was a full Oompa Loompa assistant at that point. I don't remember. We were making, I think,
cleaning supply boxes. Yeah.
Exactly, and then taking them out the back door.
Yeah.
It was a
Those
number.
Are always crazy.
You're like, I need number 1, number 4, number 5, and I'm like, okay, I thought we're at an in and out. But we had a good time, and I loved your personality. Very bubbly, fun, but very professional and capable. And I'm excited.
Thank you.
I think the Crisis Pregnancy Center is going to benefit very much.
I'm excited
from that. And I'm speaking with a couple people that I know that work out there. I think they are very excited to have you, and I think the future plans are a part of your calling. I think you just have. With 6 kids on your way, and I think you're going to have some particular set of skills that would be a very good advantage.
We got some hyper organization going on for sure. God has gifted me with some of that.
Give me a little bit of like an overview. So when you think Crisis Pregnancy Center, you just think teenage girl walking off the street needs some help. Is that?
Yes, in part. So we've been around for about 13 years.
Okay.
Our main office, our only office right now is in Aurora. It's been in the same locations right on there on the square for that whole time. It's kind of crazy that we're having this conversation now because God has kind of given the board just this massive vision that I know previous boards have been praying for years.
Yeah.
And we feel now that we've got the people in place and the vision and the beginning of the finances to really do some meaningful expansion of services. We serve the Barry Lawrence County areas, which we were talking about earlier, is a massive geographical
If you don't know how big
region.
that is, just go Google it real
but
quick.
It's incredibly rural.
It is.
And it's very, very spread out. And there's no straight roads to any place. And so our biggest hurdle right now, and really has been this whole time, is just making the services that we have accessible to the people that need them.
That makes so much sense too,
Yeah.
because having lived in Arizona and then moved here, my kids are so used to 30-minute drives everywhere.
Yeah, it's like not even a
It's
thing.
not even a big
Yeah.
deal. But if we would
Yeah.
have driven 30 miles I live 3 minutes from everything.
Yeah.
You could basically throw a stone and hit almost anything you needed on a street corner.
Sure.
We talked about it earlier. What it feels like is like if you spread sand on a table and then you try to collect it all. There's actually a massive amount of people that you're serving. It just maybe doesn't feel like it
spread
because,
out.
there's a patch of houses here. There's a trailer park over here. There's a huge city over here.
Right.
But then in between all of that is these
A lot of
farmhouses.
land.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So as you're saying, access to your services is probably the biggest hurdle.
Right.
What is the vision?
So our vision, we just recently had our annual board meeting and we set out a 1, 3, and 5-year plan. So there are plans now, Lord willing, that are getting put in place to actually move the major hub of our operations to Monette,
Okay.
which is a good spot because that's centrally located in our area. It's right on the Barry Lawrence County line. It gives better access, at least to Cassville for a little while. And really, we're able to build a building that is exactly what we need it to be and have all the facilities we need it to have and all of those things. With that, we're going to maintain a satellite location in Aurora. We're getting ready to, again, Lord willing, move to a different location that it has, again, better facilities and just more space for us. But the 5-year plan is to open satellite locations in Cassville and Mount Vernon as well.
Wow.
And then eventually, hopefully, and I think this will be the game changer for us, is to buy a mobile unit that will just get out into all of those really little rural towns.
I love that so much. And when you say satellite campuses, you mean like these are digital check-in spots? Are these like places they can meet on Zoom? Or are these just little pieces of the bigger mothership?
So they're little pieces of the bigger mothership.
Okay.
So we'll have physical locations that'll be open. I don't know if it'll be 7 days a week or if it'll just be a few, but we'll have mentors that are there. We'll have an office director there. It'll be
the resources
it'll have the
will be in
resources
fullness.
available to the people
It just
in that
won't
area.
be the absolute.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, and that makes sense too with storage and having the access. You don't have to have
We have
every
all the
location
stuff that they need for right there,
exactly.
yeah.
And I love the idea. And the mobile unit. I don't know if you've been around to see the Chick-fil-A truck and how crazy it gets, but when they show up to town,
they show up and
they-
people are there.
you know what I
for
mean?
Sure. We need to make sure that we schedule on the same day the Chick-fil-A is on, and we'll just park right next door.
I was gonna
It'll
say
be perfect.
hello.
Yeah.
And even the taco truck gets some pretty good jazz when it gets in town. And
Oh, yeah.
I just think that, in the rural type areas, if you're able to get and reach just a little bit further with something like that once a month, it could be just a complete game changer.
It really is, because the demographic that we serve, our mamas and our daddies, they do tend to be the ones that have harder time finding transportation or reliable transportation or even gas a lot of times. And so the more accessible, physically accessible we can make the services will be just huge. And our monies that we're getting right now and raising right now are specifically for the purpose of making things accessible. It's not for stuff so much. It's for physical locations, staff, all of those things that we can then, exponentially increase who we're able to serve.
Well, and there's the old adage, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And if you can't be face to face, the care doesn't feel as personal when it's just a package of diapers versus actual
Relationship
handshakes,
building.
hugs, and eye contact.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love some of the stuff that we've talked through, even previous conversations with previous leaders out there and people that are functioning. It's this the concept of full family care, not just for the woman. And that's part of my heartbeat. Having grown up in the Midwest, being a pastor's kid, I always felt like the mom was either villainized or like said, "Oh, good, you at least did the bare minimum of having the baby." And it's like, in my mind, that always broke my heart, because I guess growing up doing youth ministry, I'm like, these girls,
they need more than that.
They need way more than that,
Yeah.
and they actually feel devalued while they're bringing life into the world. And I don't understand how that happens. I'm like,
absolutely.
and sometimes by men, and I'm like, you can't even do this. Like, why are you devaluing
You
this
goodness
amazing thing?
Yeah.
And I love this concept of full family care. And when I say that, maybe you expand on what that really means and entails when you talk about.
Yeah. So we were talking earlier, fortunately, and very praise the Lord, that a lot of our clients, the vast majority of them do not tend to be abortion minded. So when a girl walks into our facility, we're not necessarily having to actively talk them out of abortion. which is not the case in a lot of other
No,
places,
no, that
especially
is
the bigger cities. So
very
we're
much
very
so a
fortunate
blessing.
in that. But our heart is to really establish relationship with them. One of the very first things that we are able to do is get that first ultrasound done. And for anyone, the vast majority of those moms, they see that baby on there, they hear a heartbeat, and I mean, it's a game changer. It is a life
It was for the
changing
dad. I can tell you the
game
first
changer for them.
It is. That's awesome.
And so getting them hooked up with mentors. Our mentors are amazing. We have men and women that do it, give counseling and just kind of walk that pregnancy journey and that first year journey of just all the things that can happen and might happen, might not happen, but just there's not a mom. I have 6 kids, and there's still with my 1-year-old. I feel like a new mom some days.
Yeah.
Every kid is different, right? You never totally get used to it.
Single one.
And so to have the community of experienced people, of believers, we are entirely 100% Christian-based nonprofit. Jesus is in all we do, and even more importantly than saving babies and saving families is bringing people to Christ. And so,
Love that.
being able to establish a relationship with them, to get a little piece of a season with them, hopefully, and inject Jesus as much as we can, and as much as we're able, our mentors introduce the gospel to them. We love partnering with churches to where we are truly creating infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the way our program works is from the moment the mama walks through the door, and sometimes she doesn't even know she's pregnant yet, and we're doing pregnancy tests for them.
Yeah.
And so it's really early on. And then others, they'll walk in at 8 months.
Yeah.
So, you never know who's going to walk through that door. But from the moment they walk through that door, we are with them, if they choose us, up to that baby's first birthday. So it's really, in actuality, a very short period of time.
It can be up as little as a year or as much as almost 2.
Exactly. So our mission is to create as much infrastructure, whether it be showing them where their resources are, where the WIC are, where the food stamps are, where they can find utility help, what churches are in their area that are willing to just embrace them and bring them in and love on them. So that when that 1 year mark hits for that baby, like you said, it's not just falling off a cliff, but it's sending them off, into the fast lane, knowing that we have set up as much infrastructure as we can for them to be extremely successful.
And I think that's the beauty of this whole thing. And one of the things you said just a few minutes ago is just the concept of love Jesus at the center of everything we do. And that's one of our values, is actually love is at the core of everything we do. And that's balanced by saying we will be known what we're for, not what we're against. And the concept around that is just when you fight for love, the things that are not of love fall away.
Yeah.
And when you fight to love the mom and you love her, I think everything else falls into place. Like she learns and grows and feels cared for.
And loving them where they're at. I mean, just like Christ did. It's one of those where we have all shapes and sizes and ages and races and everything come through those doors. And they're very broken people, just like everyone else is. And
that's what Revelation looks like. So I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, we meet them at the door with love, and it's like, okay, but we can also help show you a better way. And we can help chain break, in many cases, generational curses, and showing them that there's more that God has for them. There's more that God has for their family and for this baby that they're carrying. And there's plans and a purpose for all of that, And ultimately, yes, we're saving babies, and hopefully that we continue to do that. But we are showing a better way through Christ for this entire region.
It's not just life, but full life. And that's our mission statement here is John 10:10, I've come to life and life to the full.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's part of why the Crisis Pregnancy Center to me is such an amazing tool. And I've talked about this in extent, probably not something you've heard on our podcast, but the gym for me has become a place where I recognize that nobody just stumbles in there on accident.
Yeah.
Like, people go there because they've either been told by a doctor, as I was, that you can either get off your fat butt and go work out, or I can give you medicines for the rest of your life, or they are in some sort of financial or relational or even internal struggles, and they are trying to find victory in a physical place. And so very few people are there on accident. They're just like, oh no, I just showed up here. And you're like, what is this?
How did I get here?
And I think that is very similar to what you guys deal with when those people come through the doors. They recognize that they don't have what it takes, or that they don't know what to do, or they realize they could really mess this up if they're not. And having people there ready to help and with an attitude and the heart that you're describing is a game changer.
It totally is, because not a single person is walking through those doors not scared.
Yeah.
And not knowing what the future is going to hold, not knowing what to do, not knowing how they're going to make it. And so it's a precious threshold to be on, because people are coming broken and hurt and maybe angry, whatever it happens to be, but not a lot of positive emotions a lot of times, or maybe wanting to be positive but scared to, because they haven't found that support to do it. And so I know our mentors, especially, and our directors and secretaries,
exactly where I was going to go. I was going to ask and say,
they're just so aware of the precious moments that they have, especially initially with these people. And they don't take it lightly.
I hope they don't. I mean, I have those exact moments in the gym with these guys that maybe have never cried, or these guys that haven't ever had emotions expressed, and they're there and they're broken.
Yeah.
But they're trying to act strong.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the conversations, and I feel the weight of those where it's like, oh, this is like,
this is a God moment.
This is a moment where I'm like, don't. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Holy Spirit, talk to
exactly.
me, please.
I'm like, you said an Acts, you would say the words. But it is amazing that I see. I was telling someone this the other day. If I was going to build a new church, and I'm not saying I'm going anywhere, but I was going to build a new church, I would put a gym on one side, a daycare on the other.
100%.
And I would just be like, oh, we're hoping 7 days a week, come as you are. And if you'd ever want to stumble into this,
and a coffee shop in the middle for all the moms.
I'm thinking then a crisis pregnancy on the backside and a coffee shop in the front.
Let's do it. I like it.
Just around the whole thing. But it is funny, because these are places that people come and the gospel heals.
Yeah.
Like the gospel finds
and
them.
it's such a natural insert for the gospel too. You don't have to try. They're coming to you.
Well, and this miracle of life that is about to take place, that is going to potentially be snuffed out by poor circumstances.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the gospel in a nutshell. God sees the preciousness of life and goes, I want it to not be squashed. And you're stepping in with the message of hope in that exact circumstance, which
absolutely
is amazing. And this is why we're doing this whole thing. So if you've stuck out this long, thanks, Mom.
My mom too. Thank you.
We mentioned at the beginning that diapers and strollers are amazing gifts.
They're great.
And they're great tools for people to use to show love.
Yes.
But if you would like to be a part at a relational level, is there a place to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, we're 100% donation based. We get very, very few funds from the state. And that's a whole nother conversation.
That's
that may be
disappointing.
going away anyways. But yeah, so we're always looking for mentors, men, women, there's always a need, and you can set your own schedule. You can tell us when you're available, and if you want one girl, or if you're going to be there 5 days a week. We always need help just cleaning. Like we're looking for someone to come once a week to just clean the center, dust and mop and vacuum.
Yep.
We need people, and I know Brandy, shout out to Brandy who goes to Kingsway here. She has been so faithful in just coming and taking the donations of clothing and stuff that we have and just washing them and folding them and putting them back so that the girls can come and choose between them.
Yeah.
So there's always something. And if it's something I don't mention, or you're like, I don't know if they need that, like call us and let us know. I know we have women who love to knit, and so they'll knit us the baby blankets that we give to the mamas.
Love that.
Or, there are women's groups all over the place with churches who are like, hey, we're going to have a baby shower for, do you have someone who do you have a mama who is not going to have a baby shower? We would love to give her one, or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, there's tons of we've only got 2 paid staff right now. Everybody else is volunteers.
So here's I'm going to just play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Okay. What if I don't know if I have the tools to help somebody? Do you have any tools that would guide me?
Yeah. So all of our mentors get training.
Okay.
There's a formalized training they get. So there's curriculum that they follow. There's computer program that they're I want to say charting, but documenting how your counseling sessions go and what the responses are. And I don't want to say it's for dummies, but it definitely is easy to walk your way through to familiar side. And we're not just going to throw you in the deep end and say, hey, go save this kid or this family.
And then let me just play the other side. I would say, maybe you'd agree or disagree, it's probably the most rewarding thing to watch and walk with somebody and see them grow and then become a mom and then talk with them afterwards.
I can only imagine. I have not mentored before, but I know through our fostering and stuff, and it's ironic because a couple of the kids we fostered years ago, their moms ended up at the pregnancy care center for second babies. And so it's been really cool to kind of see that whole thing play out. But yeah, like
I can only
giving,
imagine
anytime
too.
you give back and say yes to God when he's asking you to do something, I mean, all of us know who have experienced that. He is going to give us back tenfold, 1,000-fold the blessings that we give out. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not every mentor I talk to, and they're just dear, dear people. It's not a job for them. It's not work for them.
No.
It's something that is, has taken over a piece of their heart that they love doing. And a lot of them say, if I had more time, I would do more, just because it is so rewarding. And like I keep saying, those are our front line warriors that are moving that line back and
Mm.
advancing the kingdom every single time they interact with these people. I
I
mean,
love
it's
it.
just, you can't, I get jealous because just being on the board, I feel like we get to make all these big decisions, but I'm not super
You're
hands
not in the
on. I'm
trenches.
not in the trenches. And so I very much appreciate the people that are.
Well, and I've recently, probably in the last couple months, I've heard it preached from multiple different people and taught, but we, for whatever reason, have gotten really good at thinking the lessons for brokenness are just for the person that's broken,
Yeah. Oh,
not for the people that need to learn how to love broken people.
yeah, exactly.
And I can only tell you that loving people when they're hurting is not always about loving them. It's about me learning how to love them.
Because that makes us more like Christ.
Exactly.
Because every single person he loves is
that
broken.
Is an opportunity. And
Yeah.
it's not that we want to pray for suffering or hurt, but I can tell you right now, if you're stepping into a place where someone's in fear and they are worried and they don't feel seen or heard or known, and you offer any of that with the opportunity of Christ to be at the center of it, how is that not just,
Yeah, for
tear
sure.
up tear open the heavens and
Yeah.
see how much blessings I won't
Yeah.
pour out type thing. And I just feel like this is there's somebody that's listening to this podcast that needs to call. I just
100%.
feel like there's just, and if you're like, I don't know, it's you. Like, I'm just flat out, it's you. You need to call. You need to figure it out. Maybe you start cleaning, and then God convicts you to be a mentor. Maybe you just flat out know I had help when I was this, and I can offer enough.
Yeah.
And I know that's your heart for what churches should be doing here in the future. And that's one of the things we just talked about.
So our goal this next year is to really put out a challenge to every single church, every single denomination in the 3-county area to get on board one way or the other, whether that be financially. We're going to start a campaign in January that challenges every single church in the area to, in faith, commit 1% of their entire budget to us. That would be game-changing for us. I mean, absolutely game-changing for us. And I feel like 1% is a very small amount to step out in faith to start. But we have to have skin in the game. We especially, we don't have a lot of paid staff. We don't have a ton of volunteers. And God has set a massive vision in front of us to be, within 3 or 5 years, have 5 different things going, open a medical component. I mean, it's a massive vision. And the board a little bit is like, oh, okay, we know God wants us to do this. We were in complete unity. We fasted and prayed before some of these votes. I mean, it was incredible to see how the Holy Spirit worked. But it's a massive leap of faith for us. And the money's not there right now.
Yep.
And so we want to be financially responsible and not put the cart before the horse, but we also want to be able to say, you know what, this is an only God sort of moment.
No,
we can't make this comfortably knowing we have $1 million sitting in the bank. And so we need churches in the game. We need skin in the game. And, I would even say for guys or people who are like, I don't like talking to people. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't like cleaning. Think outside the box. I mean, right now we are looking for volunteers to just be on our building committee. I need an interior designer who's just going to volunteer some time that's going to help us put together color schemes. I need dudes that know electricity and plumbing or whatever, because as we're building some of this, our subcontractors know, or our GC knows that, hey, we might throw some guys your way who have skills in these areas who's going to do it for free or at cost for us. There's a million different ways to put yourself out there and come alongside as a worker in this. There's a million different kinds of jobs. And so the church is going to have to rise up. It always surprises me that more churches don't know about us. And it's been a little bit harder than I thought, frustrating, I'll admit, to convince some churches this is a worthwhile thing. And this is something that is kind of a no-brainer in my mind that they should be supporting meaningfully.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, there's lots of opportunities, and it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be skills. It doesn't have to be goods. It can be any of those things.
Yeah. Well, and that's, the value of presence alone, oftentimes when somebody is hurting is all it takes.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why when Jesus came, it's his presence above almost anything that provides that real relief. I'm excited to hear that there's a specific challenge in place. I just taught inside the Blessed to Bless series that the idea of being generous takes a plan.
Yeah.
And faith-filled is a percentage first. And that's, and it, Old Testament was 10%. Jesus says everything.
Yeah.
So, so it's like, don't, it's like, oh, the New Testament didn't get easier. It got harder.
Yeah.
So I totally think that is a valid and very, very cool way of just being like, well, why not just give one and see what God can do with 1%. And I love the challenge to don't think that just because you're a dude that this isn't a place that you have incredible.
We have to have men involved.
We have to.
We're looking for some more people on the board. We're needing mentors for our dads that do come through. I mean, if we cannot get the father thing figured out, and the family thing is never going to be complete in the way it needs to be. And I know that's intimidating for guys, but man, God is calling you out to do this kind of stuff. It just is.
And the conversations we're having right now, even in our church, we're starting a new program called The Fires, which is from John, Wild at Heart, John Eldridge. I was like, I can't remember his name. But he just started talking about how men, they don't come to the church for themselves. They only come for their wives and their kids. There's no program in the church that men actually want to come to.
Yeah.
And so he's just called The Fires, and it's come as you are. It's like, and I don't know where you stand on some of this, might be, but it's like, bring your chew, bring your cigar, bring your beer, and just come to the fire and be known, seen, and heard, and be yourself.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And he's like, you have to start creating environments where men can just come and be known.
Feel comfortable.
And they have to feel like they can just be themselves. Because what ends up happening is men come be who they wish, their wives want them to be, or who the community thinks
and
they have to be.
Fake,
and then they feel fake and they feel unknown. And then when they stumble, they're like, well, nobody really knew me anyways. Yeah. So I feel like if we can take similar conversations to these men, that's all they need. They don't need a fake goody two-shoes. They need real men to just come and go, yeah, that was really hard.
Yeah.
But this is what a boy does, and this is what a man does. And we're trying to become men. Yeah. And, those types of conversations, I think men, you're capable of doing that more than you realize, especially if it's a 19, 20, 21-year-old guy that's just looking for somebody to look at him and go, you got this.
Well, and it's so simple because we assume that there has to be this foot-thick book on how to do all of the things, and it's like when we were fostering my family and I, these kids require so little. They require a warm place to sleep and a blanket and a bed maybe.
And some food and a hug.
Food and a hug and clothing.
Yeah.
The bare minimum. And we're thinking we have to do all of these other things. And we want to, of course. But like you say, show up.
Yep.
Be like, man, I got 2 kids. Some days I kill it. Some days I just don't at all. But this is what my walk looks like. This is what my yesterday's testimony was.
I was learning this the other day, and I taught. I'm trying not to get too preachy, but at the same time, I just the patience and waiting on the Lord in the Old Testament is they're waiting for the Messiah to show up. So they're waiting on the Lord to fulfill His promises. Waiting in the New Testament is different because God is here. So it's like we're not just sitting on the porch waiting on God to show up. Waiting in the New Testament is pace. It's like hiking, with a 2-year-old. You're like, hey, wait, come back here. You actually don't know where you're going. You think you do, Or sometimes He's going, hey, get up here and come with me, and don't go that way. And I feel that with men, that's what they need to recognize. It's just learning to walk with another man and to teach him the pace and to slow him down or to speed him up or to say, hey, this is actually just a little bit of a selfless thing here.
Yeah,
it's not for you. It's actually for what you can give.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of I would say even maturity process is either a lack of picking up the pace or slowing down the pace and recognizing you're not on your own. You need to walk with other people.
Yeah.
And that's abide in that whole concept of Jesus, hey, walk with me, not ahead of me. Don't walk behind me, walk with me.
Yeah.
And I think that's all really mentoring is. If you can really, it's just figuring out their pace and then walking.
It's discipling under another name, right?
Exactly.
I mean, honestly. And the thing is this, and this is what's so scary about mentoring, because this is the honest truth. It puts a spotlight on us, right? It makes us accountable for the things that we know are right, that we're teaching and trying to encourage in others. And so that's always a very scary place to be.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know, like, when I'll go and talk at things, or I'll whatever it happens to be at a women's conference or whatever, 10 times out of 10, whatever I happen to be speaking about,
I struggle
God's
that whole
like
week.
that whole week just hammering me on stuff. And so the desire to run away and hide and just feel like, this is not worth it. This is too hard. I don't want to. Satan's just at you like you're a hypocrite. You don't know what you're preaching, but you can't do it. I mean, all of these things, but this is refining by fire, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's intentionally putting ourselves within those flames for the purpose of refinement, for the purpose of the Holy Spirit to let us know, hey, you're talking about this and you talk a great talk and everything you're saying is correct, but like, I need you to work on this too. I need you to be a good example. And so, yeah, the mentoring's not for the faint of heart,
no,
man.
it's
I tell you
not,
what.
but it is so rewarding.
Yeah.
I've said this on this podcast multiple times. I don't remember my youth pastor's name in Oregon, but I remember Sam Peterson, and he was my group leader that stepped in and volunteered, and he was a contractor. He built houses, and he just showed up, and we hung out at his house, and he had an amazing impact on my life.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember. I had 6 different youth pastors because,
Yeah.
I just moved all over the place, but he was a constant in my life in like 6th and 7th grade. And I remember like him being there. I don't remember anything he said.
You just remember his presence.
I just remember his presence
Yeah.
and how much he loved. He remembered my name. He remembered. He asked about my sports.
It's the small things,
It's
man.
just,
I'm
and
telling
so
you,
I just, the
we
deep
don't have
impact.
to get complicated on
No,
it.
and I think that's part of the reason why I'm leaning into this is because we haven't had, I think, too many people take advantage of this opportunity
Yeah.
yet. And I know there are some out there that this is actually not just the key to helping, but the key to their growth, like you said. This is actually their next step in faith. It's not just about what they're offering, though it's amazing benefit to the pregnancy. But I'm like, no, like this is where your heart breaks is actually where you're supposed to step into.
Well, it's transformation for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
God's not he's an equal opportunity refiner.
Yeah.
I mean, truly, it's chain breaking for some families and just transformational for others. I mean, God's not going to ask you to do something and there won't be huge benefits for you as well in all of it.
And look, let's not pretend there's heartbreaking stories here, and that not everything works out, and that's part of the reason why the successes are so high.
Yeah,
is because when things go well, that that was actually an opportunity that could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
But actually,
well, and there are
changed.
times when they come in and they're post-abortive at that point in time, and the brokenness that they have to walk through then, and that's another volunteer that we always need, a post-abortive mama who has walked that, who knows those woods intimately and can see from the backside where God was at through all of that, because he's in all of that too. And there is healing for that, and there is forgiveness for that, and there is moving on, and letting God do his thing in the hardest moments of your life too.
Something only God can heal. And Corey Asbury would tell you, in some deep wounds, they just have scars. That's just
and it'll always be tender.
It'll always be tender.
And but there's support. There's support for that.
Oh, and there's grace. There's so much grace for that.
Yeah.
I had a very tragic story in high school with one of my friends that gave his girlfriend a day after pill, and it just went horribly wrong. And I carried her it was awful. And he called me because I was the pastor's
You were
kid.
the person he needed to call.
And it was highly traumatic. I didn't even tell my parents at the time because I was just like, I don't even want to talk about it. So I know this is why the Crisis Pregnancy Center is there.
Yeah.
It is not just there to save babies, though that is an amazing thing. It is for the full spectrum of what love requires. To love each person that walks through that door, and like you said, steer them towards the gospel. Well, I am super excited for the future of what God is going to do, and we will have to check back in the next year and make sure that we have skin in the game.
Yes,
and that
we'll hold you to it.
Hopefully, maybe we'll have a mentor too that we might be able to
amazing.
have some stories about what God is really doing.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll have some stories about what
I
God
hope
has
so
done.
too. I expect to.
I know you
I'm
will.
fully planning on it.
Well, and you know, just encourage you. Got to pop into a trench every now and then. I think it keeps you. It keeps
Yeah,
your,
for sure.
Keeps your mind.
I would rather be that person.
I know you would.
I would much rather be that person.
Well,
but
maybe
it's
God
all
will
good.
open that
God's like,
doorway up.
you got to do this for right now, and we'll discuss in a couple months or years.
I am super excited. If you want to know more, we will put the links underneath this as much as possible in the descriptions to try to get you to places where either you want to, you know somebody that might need help, or if you want to mentor, provide, you want to look at, or just have a phone conversation with somebody over there to see if there's a way that you possibly can offer some help if your heart is breaking, or if there's a place that you just want to donate some money, you got a little extra, and you're like, I just want to.
I got to put a plug in because a lot of people don't know this. So financially, and this is something I wasn't even aware of until I had been on the board for a year, actually. But since we're a nonprofit, obviously you get tax deductions. But pregnancy centers in the state of Missouri have a very, very special additional credit you can get. So dollar for dollar, up to 70% of your donations or in-kind donations can come as tax credits for the state of Missouri.
Wow.
So you donate $1,000, you get $700 tax credit back.
That's actually incredible.
So it's massive. The whole state, it's available to pregnancy centers only. And so a lot of people don't have any idea that that's a thing. I didn't know for a long time. But I mean, for those of you who are just the money people and you're like, give me the numbers, those are some numbers for you. And obviously every single bit helps, but you know, it's kind of a nice little extra benefit. You can get some money back.
Why not win-win if we can? And obviously it's going to a good cause, and rather it go there than other places.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, like I said, if you have any questions or if you want to know more, you can always email Ryan and ask those, or probably have an email address.
Yep, I'll send one to you so you guys
Perfect.
can post
We'll put that up there as well.
For sure.
Well, as always, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us. And thank you. I took pictures of everything you guys have donated. We appreciate it so much. It's awesome.
Well, God has been good, and we are definitely blessed to bless. Have a great and glorious day in the Lord. We'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.